John. It's a pleasure for me to have this opportunity this afternoon to make a few comments and to introduce the next commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference. I thank the members of the media for your presence, and I would hasten to salute Wright Waters. He did over a decade a great job for the Sun Belt Conference. We're indebted to him for the good work that he has done. This is our fourth consecutive visit to Hot Springs, and I also want to thank the good people of this community for reaching out to the entire Sun Belt family and extending to us extraordinary hospitality. This is a first-class event in a first-class setting. The CEOs and the members of the Sun Belt Conference are excited about the future of this enterprise. A conference that is not the conference it may have been a decade ago. It's increasingly strong and getting stronger. We were excited that the football schedule for the 2012 season was just released. We're excited about the new contract with ESPN and the unprecedented exposure that will bring. And as we look to the future, I think it's important for us to talk just a bit about the footprint that we think is very valuable, and we believe that it's one of the more important assets of the Sun Belt Conference, coupled with the core institutions, all public institutions, and located generally in the southern part of the country. And it makes for great rivalries. It makes for a fan base. Our fans can follow the institutions, and certainly it saves travel dollars, and it makes sense for student athletes, and that's all a good thing. So should we expand, we take those principles into consideration, and we look for institutions, if we should expand, looking for institutions that fit what we consider to be a very important footprint and philosophy. Obviously, it takes good leadership. We've enjoyed good leadership in the previous commissioners, particularly the outgoing Wright Waters, but we knew that going forward, it would take good leadership for us to carry this conference to where we think it can go. And as we look for that leadership, we place priority on three qualities. The first, of course, is integrity. The second is vision, and the third is experience. And we believe we found all of that and more in Karl Benson. Commissioner Benson has great experience as a commissioner. He was with the Mid-American Conference, and since 1994 he has guided the Western Athletic Conference. He's widely known in athletic circles. We have certainly found that to be true in the last several weeks. In fact, just today the public affairs staff of the Sun Belt Conference told me about the remarkable interest not only in the new leadership but also in the future of our conference. We really believe that we've never been stronger academically, athletically, or financially, and that is a good foundation for carrying this conference to the next level. But again, it can't be done without great leadership, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you, on behalf of the member institutions of this conference, our next commissioner, who will join us on the 15th of March, Karl Benson. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Hawkins. This is truly a special day for me to kind of officially, even though it's not going to be official for a couple more weeks, to be in this venue, to be around Sun Belt members, to be around the important members of the media that are here today and that cover the Sun Belt on a regular basis. The last month has been a whirlwind. I interviewed with the Sun Belt CEOs on January 26th in Atlanta, and as I walked out of the room that day, I knew that there was something there, and that it was real. It's a job that I didn't necessarily chase. It wasn't a job that I necessarily went after, but it was a job that came to me. And sometimes those are the best jobs, is when two parties get together and discuss ideas and vision, and you walk away and you say, that it clicked. And that day in Atlanta, it clicked, and it clicked because of the the 10 CEOs that were around the table that day who demonstrated a commitment, demonstrated a willingness to get better, and a willingness to take advantage of the current landscape and to take advantage of the current environment, which has been so unsettling over the course of the last 12 to 18 months. And I think it's safe to say that of the 11 BCS conferences, that I think the Sun Belt is the only conference in the last year that has not had any change. Every other conference has had some change, and the stability of the Sun Belt was something that was very interesting to me, and the ability to grow a conference without having to deal with perhaps changes. However, if there are changes, the other thing that was appealing was the number of schools that are in the Sun Belt footprint that are possible new members of the Sun Belt. And President Hawkins mentioned the possibility expanding. I think that it's a real possibility, yet it's one that we need to do from a deliberate standpoint. You get bigger to get better. You don't just get bigger for the sake of adding 1, 2, or 3 or 4 schools. You do it because it adds value. And I think that the Sun Belt is in a great position to take advantage of some of this uncertainty, but at the same time, the core member institutions, the 11 member institutions today, provide a great foundation. And as many of you know, the last 15 years, I've dealt with a lot of change. And I'm prepared to deal with change if necessary. But ideally, it's to be able to have these 11 institutions that were around the table this morning. We spent 3 hours this morning with the CEOs and talked about the future of the Sun Belt. And to get 11 CEOs to come together on a Saturday morning to talk about the future, that too demonstrates the commitment of the presidents. The athletic directors, and I see many of you in the room here today, and I appreciate your support over the course of the last month, and you're an integral part to this process. I've always said that I work for the presidents, but I work with the athletic directors, and you all play a big role, and will play a big role for the future of this conference. And it goes right down to the faculty reps, to the senior women administrators, to all the coaches, and then especially the student athletes. And we can't forget the role that the student athletes play. So it's a privilege to be here. I mentioned yesterday that as I landed in Little Rock, I have now been in all 50 states. And this was the last state. This was the last state on my big map, whatever, you put the little dots on the map that you've been to these states. So I accomplished Arkansas, and I look forward to returning many times. And as Jack said, Hot Springs, what a great little secret. And today I've looked at some of the history of Hot Springs, and I think it's somewhat ironic that a conference that is on the rise is located in a place that has so much history and so much sports history. Spring training was established here back in 1910, and I saw the pictures of Babe Ruth that he played 54 holes of golf at the Hot Springs Country Club and run back to the hotel and do his mineral baths and whatever. So this is a unique spot. The facility is great. The 2 courts. I was wondering how that would work. But it is well done, and again, a compliment to Wright and the entire Sun Belt staff for creating a tournament atmosphere that is really a collegiate tournament atmosphere. So I'll stop there, and I know we've got a game that starts at the top of the hour, so we want to make sure to let the media get back to be able to cover that. But I presume, John, there's going to be a Q&A here. So
let's do a question and answer session, and of course we'll do one at a time. Christina has a wireless mic, so if you could just raise your hand, I'll recognize you, and we'll get you the mic. Go to Adam Sparks from the Daily News Journal.
Thanks, John. There's been a lot of scenarios thrown out of expansion, but I wanted to ask you about the opposite. Do you consider it any kind of real threat of any schools leaving the Sun Belt, and what can you do to to solidify the current membership before expanding?
I think there's always going to be threats, and I think one of my goals over the course of the next 30, 60 days, and it started today with the CEO meeting, talking about the benefits of being a member of the Sun Belt and what the Sun Belt can provide, and what the value, the benefits, and that can the existing membership satisfy all of their existing needs under the Sun Belt banner. And I think we need to really identify that and communicate that back on each of the 11 campuses, that the Sun Belt, as it stands today, is a powerful organization, and one that has, and I've said this many times the last couple of weeks. 5 years ago, there was the hierarchy of the Mountain West and the WAC and Conference USA, and then Sun Belt, Mid-American Sun Belt, and that was the hierarchy, and we're talking football. But that gap today has shrunk considerably, and there's not a lot of difference between the 10 football playing members of the Sun Belt and the membership of the WAC or Mountain West or Conference USA or Mid-American. And regardless of this Conference USA Mountain West proposed merger, I like the position that the Sun Belt's in.
More questions? Come on, guys. Brett Vito from the Denton Record Chronicle.
I've talked to you before, you know who I am. But anyway, I was going to ask you a little specifically. There's been some talk about North Texas and the Alliance and Florida International. At this point, do you know of anyone in the conference that has potentially been contacted by that league, or their departure is imminent? Or
I don't think anything's imminent, Brett. I think the fact that whether it's in North Texas or it's at Florida International or Florida Atlantic or Troy or Western Kentucky or any that are being mentioned, it's a compliment to the growth that these institutions have had. And I certainly have seen a number of institutions that have gotten better under the WAC umbrella and that have moved on. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. I've always said that when teams join the WAC, they get better. Well, when teams join the Sun Belt, they're going to get better. They're going to take advantage of all the assets and all of the resources that a conference has. And so it's unfortunately in this world and in this environment of college sports, as there's upward mobility, whether it's with coaches, presidents move from school A to school B, athletic directors move, commissioners move. So it's kind of a natural part of the college sport landscape.
do you know about if any of your schools like North Texas or Florida International have been in contact with the
You'll have to ask them, Brett.
Okay.
So much of the talk about expansion and everything else is football. How do you balance the growing of the basketball, like we are here to look at today, balance that with football? Football is the big part of expansion that people talk about. Can you do that and still grow basketball?
Well, and the presidents and chancellors today talked about men's basketball and how critical it is to the future of the Sun Belt, and to be able to return to multiple bids in the NCAA tournament and teams that get in the NCAA tournament and win games. That is critical. And as much as football has grown, we can't lose sight of how important basketball is. And as we begin March Madness for the next month now, it will be constantly talked about the conference rankings and how many teams get in the NCAA tournament, and they start listing the teams and the number of bids. The Sun Belt needs to get back into that multiple bid level. There's a lot of money involved, and it's growing, and that we need to take advantage of that. So I think that will be an initiative. I know that in the past couple of years, the conference has looked at standards and benchmarks and whether it's scheduling and finals, but we can't lose sight of the basketball piece.
Back row, Nick White, ESPN Radio.
Karl, congratulations again. Dr. Hawkins said March 15th. Has something changed to move that timeline up?
Perhaps. I mean, that's. I think that it's awkward. I'm in an awkward position, trying to manage the affairs of the Western Athletic Conference while at the same time looking and focusing and planning for the future of the Sun Belt. You know, I do have corporate duty and corporate responsibility to the WAC as long as I'm the commissioner of the WAC. And so I think the sooner that I can sever ties with the WAC and devote all my attention and all my energies and all my corporate duty to the Sun Belt will be in the best interest of both the Sun Belt and the WAC.
And then one of the previous questions was about if teams currently in this conference has been contacted about the alliance. Have teams started contacting, schools started contacting you about membership in the Sun Belt Conference?
Right now, again, based on my corporate duty, I probably need to decline, you know, talking about that right now. And if March 15th is the date, then that's when I can start talking about it.
Additional questions?
I see my good friend Peg Bradley Doppus from the University of Denver, and this is somewhat a little difficult in that for the last several years, Peg and I have had breakfast on a regular basis in Denver, and in fact, she's been accused of stalking me from time to time. But I'm happy for the University of Denver that they have landed in a conference that is more geographically connected to them. The Sun Belt has been great for the University of Denver, and the University of Denver has been great for the Sun Belt. And I know the Chancellor Coombe and Peg and the entire University of Denver staff, this has been a good 10-year spot for the University of Denver. One of the little sidelights going on is that you know, the trade occurred that the WAC got DU, Sun Belt got Benson, and there's a player named later somewhere in that. So, but we will. I'll always be a University of Denver fan, so for sure.
Jay Walker, ESPN Radio, 1420 Lafayette.
As the defending men's basketball champion, women's basketball champion, and baseball champion, it's obvious the University of Arkansas Little Rock's got a lot of value for this league, but at some point in time, something's going to have to get balanced out. Would you be more in favor of adding a non-football school to give some balance, or would you rather see perhaps a football-only member in order to give some balance?
I think that the balance does need to be addressed. 11 members on the basketball side is not the ideal number. So I think that as we look at expansion, we need to look at the basketball piece. UALR, I think they're the only charter member, perhaps. Do I have that right? Am I history right? Or is it South Alabama? South Alabama. Okay. So, but anyway, UALR has been a valued member of the Sun Belt for many years, and we need to protect that and to take advantage of the success that they've had in some of those sports. So I think as we go down the road of future membership, whether it's a basketball only to balance, and obviously the University of Denver was the team that balanced UALR. So on one hand we're looking on the football side, but we need to, at the end of the day, whatever the final number is, there needs to be some balance.
Do you have a preference, though, as to whether it's a basketball school or perhaps a football-only member?
I think either one could work. I think you have to get to, again, and I did an interview just a little bit ago about 12 teams, and 12 teams usually signifies football championship game. Well, there's a lot of benefit to a 12-team league outside of a football championship game, and as much as the footprint of the Sun Belt is, there's 8 schools that are within the central time zone, and then on the outside there's North Texas and the 2 Florida schools. Inside that is a very compact group of 8 schools, and I think as long as we get to 12 and be able to separate into 2 divisions, there's just as much benefit for the men's and women's basketball and volleyballs and baseballs perhaps that can take advantage of divisional play. besides, the football championship game.
Any additional questions? Kevin Turber, Bill Jones, Burrell's son.
I wanted to ask you about the possibility of adding another bowl-tie in football. Just go ahead with that.
Well, that's certainly a priority and one that I expect will happen beginning in the 2014 season. All of the bowl contracts that are in place are through 2013, and they're tied to the BCS agreement that will change in 2014. There has been speculation that the bowl eligibility requirement may change from the 6-6 to having a winning record. That will have a significant impact on the bowl, just the overall bowl landscape, and favorable to a conference like the Sun Belt. And that if we go back to a 7-5 requirement, I think that will open up some tremendous opportunities for Sun Belt teams. Mobile is a great bowl location. New Orleans is a great bowl location, and I would suspect that come 2014, there will be others, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3. But I think the opportunity for additional bowls, and if we do grow the football to 12 or more teams, we certainly then need additional bowl opportunities. And this window, this 2-year window, when the bowl, whether it's the BCS or just the bowl landscape in general, will be determined. I think the Sun Belt's going to be a beneficiary of those changes.
Any additional questions? Chad Bishop, Bowling Green Daily News.
Is your ultimate goal to have a football championship game, and how soon do you want that to happen?
Again, I don't know if it's a goal, and remember, it's I work for these guys, so they've got to decide whether they want a football championship game. And again, I think that 12 is a good number for a myriad of reasons, and a football championship game may be one of those reasons, but it's part of the bigger package. And the earliest that anything could materialize would be for the 2013 season would be the earliest. Whether that would be ambitious, but that would be the earliest.
Anything else? Jeff Woods, WDKO Bowling Green.
Karl, do you see a glaring need that the conference is there a glaring need for the conference right now in any area?
From an overall characteristic, the athletic characteristics have changed, the academic characteristics have changed, and yet there's still room for improvement. Whether it's attendance, whether it's the basketball piece that we talked about, whether it's greater APR scores. As far as the Sun Belt has grown in the last 10 years, there still is growth potential, and to take advantage of that. So I think that's we can't sit on the success and the growth that has occurred in the last 10 years. We have to have 10 more years of growth to really kind of lay claim as being a major college conference.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Thank you so much.